Oh, you know, he never went to the races. It was maybe a couple years before I ever found out I owned a Mustang. And then I remember he told me, I heard you bought a P51. I said, yep, sure did. You know, blah, blah, blah. He didn't really have much to say about it, but a lot of time had passed. He was getting older and starting to slow down, and he really didn't have much to say about it, one way or the other. It's progressed to what you see behind me today. You know, we know this airplane, we've made the statement, as long as it's running, there's nobody going to beat us. And I think we've proven that. That's just the way it is. Of course, we did have a bad 10 years of bad luck. You know, you got to have the old lady luck riding with you, or you're shot down before you get going. So you got to have a little luck. No, not really. I never really cared about any of that, you know. We'll make our own way, and the proof is in the pudding, you know. So for me, coming off the farm, you know, and I've heard many instructors say that the easiest guys to teach how to fly is a guy that's been on a farm, because with all the equipment operation, to me, you know, it's just another piece of machinery, and most of that stuff's driven by feel, and that's basically the way you fly this thing. It's all by feel and a little common sense. When we go back in time before we had the jet, you know, Mr. Hoover had the stock Mustang, and I can very readily remember coming down that chute. He's calling out his power increases. Every time he would have an increase, because now we're really heading downhill, the highly modified, at least myself, I'd have a power decrease. All right. The last time that I remember coming down that chute, I had the pole position, and I'm looking back in that canopy, and I see him back there. We're all lined up, but he's probably 50 yards behind us and going back. We got the power pretty much off, you know, and he's saying, gentlemen, that's all I got, I don't have any more. And then he makes the call, whenever the time's right, gentlemen, you got a race. And for the gold racers, you know, the highly modifieds, when you point these things downhill, man, they just really rock. And he just couldn't stay with us, you know. So that's what I vividly remember. Many other times on a Friday, we'd be forming up, headed for Peavine, and you know, he'd be eyeballing us, and pretty soon he'd come on the radio and said, gentlemen, what I'm witnessing here is really some sloppy flying, blah, 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 you know, whatever he said. By the time Sunday came, he would say, gentlemen, I'm witnessing some very professional flying today, because usually it takes a couple of days for everybody to get their stuff together and get it right, you know. So that was always kind of fun.
And somebody to at least point it out on Thursday or Friday.
Oh yeah, he didn't care, you know. He was going to point it out, whatever he saw, and that's the way it was. And so everybody, obviously, as the days progressed, trying to do better. Yeah, we know who we're grooming. We just hope the races last long enough so we can get to 8. But as far as me, no, I'm really done. It was time for me to step out of that cockpit. I knew it was time. And after 08, I figured you can't go out any better than right on top. And it was time. And do I miss it? Well, maybe the only thing that I miss is coming down that chute at full power. That's a kick in the pants. But other than that, I really don't. I've done it so much, I was just ready to get out of there. And we got the right guy in there.
So it was the timing of you know, tying the 7th and finding somebody who could really step in and do the work.
Yeah, and it just all played really well for us and for Stephen. And he came along at the right time, got all the ability to do what needs to be done, got his head screwed on straight. It all just works. And, you know, like I mentioned, that 10 years of bad luck, all I wanted to do was win that last one, and that took until '08. Okay, we won it. I stepped out. He was ready, as we know, stepped in and has just done a marvelous job.